Hi Aquarius, how's it going? We're here with a timeless reading. Welcome. What I'm seeing is you looking at something that you're currently doing. So it can be like a current investment of yours, something that you've been putting your energy into recently. There's like a culmination of energy in the direction of where you're looking. You may be trying to find something out or see something or realize something or understand something or get to the bottom of something, like that type of thing. Okay, we're starting off with the Magician and the Ten of Cups on the bottom of the deck. This is about your intention and what you're creating. Where your mind is too, what you're thinking about, what you're understanding, what you're reflecting on, what you're trying to create. So you can be in a spot right now where you have a bunch of like ingredients and you're like, what am I gonna make with all of this, with what I have? Like, what is my intention? What am I going after here? What am I trying to do? Do I want it to be sweet? Do I want it to be salty? What do I want this to be here? What am I in the mood for? Cold, hot? I'm also seeing the Death card as well. So this feels like there can be like a changing in your thinking. Like you're over here, like I want to make something I've never made before. I want it to be like more evolved than any other like recipe or creation that's ever left my hands, like that type of thing. Whatever this is that you're doing, you don't want it to be like anything that you've ever done before. Whether this be something creatively, whether this be something in your life, like a relationship, whatever it is, you're in a spot where you're like, because Death card is here, I don't want it to be like anything that's ever been done before. Whether it just be like you with you, or you looking around at other things and being like, I want to create something totally original, or something that I feel like is much more evolved than what I have had before. I want this to be different than it was in the past, or I want this to be... With the Death card, you can be like remixing something. You can also be just making something completely different where you're like, I don't want to go back to how it was before, doing things in that way. I want this to feel like very new. I want it to feel like a breath of fresh air, but it may have to go through sort of a purging process with the Death card. So you may be looking into like, how do I create? How do I get inspired? When I say create, I don't mean like necessarily literally making a piece of art, even though this definitely can be. Right? It can be you like painting something, it can be you drawing something, a piece of poetry, it can be a speech that you're giving. But the Magician has to do with like anything at all that you're creating within your life where you have a sense of intention, where like mentally you're on board with something, and creatively and inspirationally. Like Magician is about where your mind is focused, and to have the Death card, it's like maybe you're focusing it in a way that you've never done before, or you feel like you want to like abandon the old ways and allow yourself to grow into a new way. But to have the Death card, this can be like really painful because there's a very big evolving that's happening, which means purging all of the stuff that's unnecessary. So it means that before you can like create something new, you have to get rid of the waste. Like you have to trim the fat. It's like very much that type of thing with the Death card, where like before you can sort of start doing something that's going to be a building, you have to like separate and take things apart. So you may be at that point in the process right now where it's like getting to the bare bones of something even, or like stripping it down with the Death card. This may be a bit of a scary or an intimidating process, but I'm seeing you get closer and closer to what you actually want here. And you feel like you're starting to move forward now at this point. But you knew that a change needed to happen, like a full and total change needed to happen in order for this to be possible. Keep your keep yourself focused on what you want, or just like feeling connected to that, so you're recognizing when things are becoming like getting sparked for you. You're in the like a bit of a confusing, a bit of an unclear spot. There may be practical ways that you can address this. What I'm seeing here is that this part about like the whole purging and whatnot and stripping things down, you may be at a spot where like what stays and what goes, like that part of where you are, and like what do I want to stay and what do I want to go, and then what am I going to do with that. Death card can be like, I want to get rid of almost everything here to create something completely new. It can be like throwing everything away that you were doing before and being like, I'm going to start like a whole new project or a whole different manifestation. Or it can be something where it was like, I may be using like the same ingredients, but I want it to be very different than the last recipe, like that type of thing, where I feel like you're doing something from scratch here. In the middle of this Nine of Cups, this is about like wishes and hopes and what you want and your desires for things, but especially on an emotional level. So this isn't something that's going to be like externally gratifying. Like that's not the driving point of it anyway, even if it is. It's about it being internally gratifying, if we want to use that word. It's something that's going to resonate with you more than anything on an internal level, and that's where the motivation and the drive is coming from. Because this is like something that you're insourcing as far as inspiration, rather than like outsourcing this and then feeling like you're just at the hands of whatever conditions externally are occurring. So it's sort of bringing it back to the inside so you can really be in touch with what it is that you want. And so you're like producing and creating and manifesting from that place, which may be different than how you were doing things before. You could have had your mind elsewhere. You could have had different things that were motivating you before. Now I think that you're trying to make sense of something where you're sort of doing that process of figuring out like what's what here. Practical approach is being suggested. This means just taking like grounded steps. Okay. The thing on your mind more than anything is Six of Pentacles, which means that whatever this is that you want to be involved in, you want it to be a type of exchange that sort of, it can function on its own. When the Six of Pentacles is here, it means that there's a type of give and take where something can flourish in itself, like as a unit. So there can be like a giver and a receiver, and that can switch back and forth, but it's sort of like its own unit that can work on its own. There's a word that I'm looking for here. It's just like fully functioning within itself. So you're trying to create something that is self-sustaining. That's the word. You're trying to create something here that's self-sustaining. That's where I'm seeing you approaching it. But how you could have tried to do that before, you may be approaching this in a very different way. Because you could feel like you were very focused on that, and maybe so focused on it, because I'm seeing the Pentacles here, maybe you were focused on something externally that wasn't as internally driven, and you felt like that was even like the falling point of this. Maybe you feel like things got pushed in a direction that brought you into this process in the first place because of looking at things in that way. So this feels like doing something that's self-sustaining, like having that intention be, and doing it in like a whole new way or a whole different way with the Death card. Like this can be a rebranding of some sort. Something did not work out before is what I'm seeing. And it seems like for some of you, you may have wanted this to continue and you felt like it was out of your hands that this came to an end. But this is allowing you to like to really get in touch with what you want now. Because whatever that was, there's nothing to do about it anyway. Like, it's all come to be as it is. So I think you're at this point where there's like a fleshing out that's happening. I think that you're still coming to terms with something coming to an end that you may not fully be on board with yet. Because you may be like, I really wanted that, but it has nothing to do with what's going on now. It was just like what you wanted before and sort of like where we aren't anymore. And so I'm seeing that you're getting to a point where I think that you're going to wake up a little bit and look around you in a way where I think that there's been a focus on the past where you may feel like it's not allowed you to be fully present because you're still learning to accept something and like putting yourself in that place, because it can feel like something was taken away from you, something like that. But the death card is here and it's necessary, and it's like in order for you to continue evolving. So you could have been comfortable with something, but it's like you weren't really growing. And when you look back at that, you can realize that like this is something that's actually going to get you closer to something that you're going to feel more connected to. It's going to feel more resonant with where you are currently. But there's definitely a bit of a catching up that's happening currently, where you can feel like not everything is moving together yet because things are still sort of like falling into place. I think on a deeper level, you know this, but there can be like another part of you that's like, I'm still just having a hard time with this. So you can feel sort of like fractal in that way. Things are gonna be all right. Yeah, something just wasn't aligned. It was definitely something that you cared about. What do you have to focus on now? What's going to help you? You have to focus on what you're caring about, what you're finding yourself caring about most and feeling most connected with. Because something is like not making full sense yet, but it's something that I think you're bonding with in some way here. But you may still be trying to figure out your feelings. I think that there's a relationship that's going to be helpful to you too, but you may feel still like something is not making sense, but that's not because you're supposed to disengage from this. This is something that like the only way out is through. It's one of those times here. And it's actually looking into this thing, like why isn't this making sense? Like what is inconclusive? What needs to be clarified more than anything? For some of you, this is a relationship with another person. That's not going to be the case for everybody, but for some of you, I'm definitely seeing another person. I'm seeing like a relationship here. And they're being like, I'm confused about what's going on. Like, how are you feeling? How am I feeling? How are we feeling together? What does this mean? Like those sorts of things. I'm seeing that. You can feel a little bit frustrated too. Because I think that there's something you want. I think that there's anxiety. I'm seeing there be this sense of feeling upset about something. You can also feel like there's no going back. I'm getting that strongly, and there can be a part of you that's like, but I wanted to do those things back there, but like the route has been cut off. You can't go back there anymore. So I think just making sense of like what's in front of you is really what you're being guided to do, but you can feel like a part of you isn't fully present because it's still sort of existing in the past and still hasn't like fully let go of those things yet. But right now you're at a point where I'm seeing your intention is like, I want to manifest something that feels reciprocal to me. So this thing that I'm getting involved with, or like this relationship that I'm becoming involved in, I want to make sure that it's something where there is a sense of reciprocity, where there is a sense of equality. With the lovers does not have to be an interpersonal relationship, although it can be. Like for many of you, this can be a relationship. But for others of you, this can be like an activity that you love, that you're getting into. It's just anything that you feel attracted to and that you want to work in some type of like symbiotic unit with. So it's like there's that part with the lovers and there's this part, And like one of those parts is you, and the other element is like this other thing that you're sort of joining with to make a relationship that's going to be self-sustaining. So this can be, I mean, who do we have here? We have Gemini and we have Scorpio and Leo. Leo can have to do with like a creative thing that you're doing. It can be with anything artistic, creative, fashion, anything that's like center stage, acting, really anything that would like draw attention or be expressive in some sort of way. We have Gemini here, which can be about with the lovers. It can be about an interpersonal relationship, needing to communicate things that have yet to be communicated, have yet to be clarified with another person. We have Scorpio. This can be connected with your mental health. We also have Mercury here too. So it's really just like dependent on where you're focusing, what area of life this is within. And also too, it can be like the house that Scorpio rules, the house that Gemini rules, the house that Leo rules for you. And some type of relationship that is starting within that house. So it's like, let's say that Scorpio is ruling your 12th house. It can be like you breaking down the relationship with your mental health, among many other things. You breaking down your relationship with your dreams. It can be you breaking down your relationship with things that are more ethereal, spirituality, that type of thing. There can be needing to communicate with others that's coming up within this. This can be needing to like break down psychologically what's going on. Like, how was I thinking before? How does this need to change now? Especially too, having Death card and 5 of Cups. This is like a state of acceptance for what no longer is, and no matter how much you think about it, it's not going to change anything. So it's about moving forward. So I think this is like taking the aspects of your energy that are still connected, that are still like looking into the past in a way, only because like what this is motivated by is a lack of acceptance. And sort of coming to the aid of that part of yourself. Because this isn't like, oh, I'm so mad at myself, like I can't forget this, or I can't forgive this, or I can't get over this. This is about coming to the aid of that part of yourself and being like, what do you need? What needs to be recognized? Like that type of thing. Because with Scorpio here, this is like facing the darkest, most painful things, like facing the most traumatic things, or facing the most difficult, challenging things that we go through. But when we do that, it unlocks the parts of ourselves that evolve and grow the most. And so even though it's like the most challenging and it's the most painful, and I think this is also too like connected with like a rerouting that's happening. Like when I see Mercury and I see Scorpio next to each other, I think about like creating new like neural pathways and stuff. Because Mercury is about your brain, and it's about what's going on and how you're thinking. And to have the Death card here, it's like which ways are no longer functional anymore. And how do we like carve out that new path? And it's very difficult for us to sort of change lanes in that way. However, it's necessary. And because we have Mercury here with the Magician, which is again like how we're thinking and what's going on mentally for us, and we have Scorpio, which is fixed water energy connected with 5 of Cups. This is like stuff that you may still have a hard time getting over, stuff that you may have a hard time accepting, that part of you that's still angry, that part of you that still feels unsafe. It's about like integrating all of this. Because fixed water energy is like holding on to emotions still and not releasing them. And that's why it can be very, very difficult for wherever you have Scorpio in your chart and Scorpio placements, and wherever you have Pluto in your chart. But something needs to be released here. But it has to be released in a way where you care for it. It's not just pushing away this part of yourself. Otherwise, it's not going to be integrated. It's still going to stay there. So this may be a part of yourself that tries to sort of deal with this, but is dealing with it in a way where it's not effective. So this is you really, judgment, getting to the bottom of this. Like, why am I still holding on to this? Because it's still coming up for you, and it doesn't feel good to hold on to it. So it's about figuring that out. Coming to terms. It's going to help you with a relationship, something that still feels like it's not making full sense to you yet. To have Magician and to end over here with the Strength card, this means that it is not easy to do this. Mentally, it's not easy to do this. It's not easy to manifest this. It's not easy to hold the vision of this intention. However, if you are willing to do this, it's going to happen. So it's really all about your willpower at the end of the day. How willing are you to realize this, to make this happen and to stay with this? I think too, you're still trying to figure something out. Like, this thing that you're getting involved in, or like this person that you're trying to make things work with, like, is there reciprocity? I still am not fully sure yet in some way, but it's because of the past still lingering that is making it difficult for you to see presently. So that's why the past stuff needs to be worked with, because it's now impacting you and it's creating a sense of fogginess and a lack of clarity that is getting in the way of something that's happening right now. So that's what's happening. That's why things are coming up. Happy retrograde. All right, my friends, we are going to leave the reading here. I would like to thank everyone for connecting. Thank you for tuning in. I'm sending everybody love, and I hope to catch you guys next time.